What About Vietnam? A podcast with Gary Newsom. The series where Curry talks with travellers about their experiences and adventures. Find out more about Vietnam from the people who have actually been there.
What about Vietnam?
Whether it's adventure, exploring the culture and cuisine, shopping, or just soaking up the sun. Let Carrie and her travellers pave the way for a magical holiday in Vietnam.
What about Vietnam?
Xin chào and welcome to the What About Vietnam podcast. My name is Carrie Newsom and I am your host. And for today, I'm going to be your host and your only guest speaker, as I've got a subject I want to take on and kind of tackle myself and share my thoughts with you, as I've wanted to put a show together about this subject for quite some time. And I think, or I hope, it's going to be helpful to you in your trip planning and your thoughts around how you want to experience Vietnam. So the subject I want to talk to you about fits in with Series 1. When I started the podcast back in 2020, really as a COVID baby, I wanted to begin the series. I mean, at that time, I actually didn't know how many series I would do, but I certainly wanted Series 1 to be pretty much the series that holds episodes in helping people design or decide how they want to experience Vietnam, because that makes a big difference to your takeaway, to what you get out of Vietnam, in my opinion. And I've had a lot to do with putting plans together and working with companies who do group tours, etc., over the last, 14 or so years. So I think I've got a fair bit to share with you today, and I hope so, in the way that I can deliver it so that you can decide for yourself which is the best way to go. So this is going to sit in Series 1, and we're going to talk to you today about how is the best way to experience Vietnam. Is it via a group tour that you participate? And I think that's one category, and that's one category I'm going to break down and talk to you about the pros and cons. And then there is the individual traveller. In some circles in the industry, we call that the FIT traveller, free independent traveller. And in that category, there's, to me, two types. One, you're the do-it-yourself person, where you take on the whole job, the whole conception, the whole planning, the whole booking. You do all the bookings, whether they're direct or whether they're online or whatever. Or there's the individual tour situation where you want to have control over what you want to do, but you want to book it privately, and you want to do that with a travel agent or a travel advisor, someone who really knows the lay of the land and can book everything for you through a destination company or tour operator that can facilitate all that for you. But it's private and it's personal to your budget, your preferences. So that's what today's going to be about. And just want you to sit back. Let me be the person to kind of feed your thoughts, feed you some information to help you make some decisions. And sometimes these decisions are not made just alone. They're made with a partner, with your family, with a group. You know, you might be sitting around a dinner table and everybody says, "Hey, let's all go to Vietnam." And I want this show to be fuel for you to help make the wisest decision, because it's a real mixed bag as far as feedback from trips, in the sense that some people go on a set tour and come back and they're just exhausted. they just, like Vietnam just went by in a flash. And they don't really come away with that, I really want to go back there thing. And then there's some people who go, I should have done this. I really should have got more advice. It was probably not the best time of year to go. I would have liked to have known about these activities. And, that do-it-yourself person just couldn't deal with the overwhelming swell of information to try and find the best things to do and best ways to book it, etc. Had they gone to an advisor or a travel agent, that travel agent might have been able to help them to do that. Okay, so let's talk about group tours. Now, my involvement with people who have been on group tours has been extensive. I've also been involved with creating and curating tours for companies to on-sell. So over the last 14 years, I can really put my hand on my heart and say to you, I've had a lot to do with group tours to understand the psychology behind them, the methodology behind them, the processes, and, some of the pros and cons. And one of the pros for group tours that just hits you like right off the bat is probably the sense of connectivity and the ability to meet people, like-minded people who want to visit the country. So if you would like to go on a holiday where you get to meet people, travel with them extensively for the trip, and do it in a set period of time, then group tours might be just the perfect thing for you. One of the things to add to that would be that group tours are almost always strictly run on set dates. So, as long as you're happy to fit into the dates that they're operating, once again, that's perfect for you. They always include, set time periods. So you're going to see advertisements for, 12 days in Vietnam, and they will probably run those twice a month or 3 times a month on set dates. So you will be able to, as a plan, you will be able to plan in that set date on that set budget for those periods of time and those places listed in the tour program. So for the group option, you have to kind of be a person that you really want. You want to go and you want to be with people, and you want to do it the way the tour operator has designed it. And you don't really want to fashion your own kind of experiences out of it. You really like the idea that the tour company that you're going to book with has pre-organized everything from your flights to your accommodation to your activities to literally everything. You know what your budget is, you know what you've paid for, what your inclusions are going to be. So usually in that set, the only thing you're probably going to think about is the occasional free day that you have and, how you might like to fill in that. And you're also going to, have very limited need for any extra spending other than maybe some souvenirs and some eating, etc. So, it's all there for you. And that's very, very attractive for people. And when I talk to people who've done a group tour, it's a real mixed bag about people's enjoyment factor or the feedback that I get from people. And I've even participated as a mystery traveller on some tours, etc., so that I can gauge how well the tour is going, whether people wanted to do something differently. There's, some people saying, hey, this was really great. They really should promote this as something really special. So I think the thing that I get mostly from group tours that worries me is that they go, yeah, well, we went to Vietnam and, we're done. And I go, well, so would you like to go back? Is there anything? Maybe, I don't know. We probably could have had some more time in Hoi An. We didn't get to kind of further northern regions of Vietnam. Probably would have liked to add in the Sapa part. Could have done without this. But they're not jumping out of their skins to go back. The biggest thing that I see this a lot is they're generally exhausted. Their opinion of Vietnam is a little bit on a flashcard. 8 days to see a whole country. I don't know. It'd be like me saying, you've got 8 days to see all of Italy. Good luck with that. So, from the person who is willing to maybe use it as a bit of a reconnaissance situation, I definitely would think it would be the go. But getting back to the original of, hey, you just want to see Vietnam in a group situation where everything is organised and you want to keep it within a minimum budget, there is tons out there. They are generally cookie cutter kind of trips that will include the major destinations. So that's, from top, it'll be Hanoi, central, it will be Hoi An or Da Nang or both. And then going south, it will be Saigon, Mekong Delta. And there will be traditional spots. You can choose tours that offer small groups to large groups. And once again, depending on where you're coming from, if you're coming from the Northern Hemisphere, you've got to add in, a couple of days of travel to get to Vietnam. You're going to be able to manage your time and fit a lot in that space of time. So it's all going to be pre-planned for you. You don't have to You may see at the beginning of the show notes in the podcast channel that you're listening from some words that say text me a message. It's a great idea. Don't get me wrong. I love hearing from you. And whether that's your thoughts on the episodes, some questions, messages of appreciation, I just love the feedback. It's really great. However, I feel it remiss of me to not thank you for them, but to not be able to respond directly to you. So if you have sent me a question, and I've got lots, and you haven't heard from me, there's a really good reason why. I actually don't have the ability in the technology to respond to you. They kind of expect that you would or I would answer the questions in the form of a show. And there's just kind of too many, and I just think it's just too personal not to do it that way. So I wanted to alert you to the fact that if you do send me a message through that connection option, I'm not going to be able to respond to you directly. So if you do have a question, and it is time sensitive, or you want to send me any kind of message, can I suggest the following two ways? One, send me an email to WhatAboutVietnam@gmail.com. That is the email address that I have the most constant access to, and I will aim to get back to you ASAP. Secondly, if you go to the website for the podcast, which is WhatAboutVietnam.com, if you scroll right to the bottom, there is a chance for you to leave a voice message. Now, in that voice message, I can respond to you equally with a response in voice. So if you want a quick response, that's your next best way. But I just wanted to get this into the show, make you aware of this, as it really is becoming problematic. And I've just got too many, and I can't kind of go naming people and answering each question. That's just a little bit silly. So if you have sent me a text message before and you're waiting on a message back as a response, I'm so sorry. I cannot do that. But if you want to send the question again, I'd be more than happy to answer. Search. You don't have to research. You don't have to book other things or add-ons. You just need to get there, pick up the travel manager and the tour operator, as he will then take it over from the get-go right through to the finish. Now, I just want to add to this when we're talking about groups that a couple of things that you want to be a little bit aware of is the structure. And one aspect of the structure of these tours is that it's all predestined, it's all pre-planned. There's no changes or reversions to that, unless, weather or something happens, etc., and it has to be rearranged. But generally they are set plans, and you're going to be given a complete itinerary which is full of everything and all the information that you need to do those. And they're also done in strict time plans. So no matter whether or not you've had a big night out the previous night or you are tired or whatever, you need to be the kind of person that works well with stringent timings. So when you need to be out the front to meet the bus, or you need to have your bags ready for the bus the next day, then you certainly are suitable for this type of tour. If you're not, however, and you'd rather luxuriate over your free breakfast that, would come with your hotel possibly, then, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle with the structure and the stringent time frames, because you can't think as an independent. You can't think as, just what you'd like to do, because you have to think as part of that group. You are traveling with a group goal, and, whether or not you'd like to do something different in that city would mean you having to say to the tour operator, I do not wish to participate in today's activity. And they would kind of have to sign you off to say, okay, but you would not get any refund or anything like that for denying those activities for the day as you had pre-purchased them. But it would enable you to, go off and do your own thing. And I've kind of stressed this to some people who've done group tours and have felt like, they were a little bit like they were back in school and rounded up and having to, be here at this time and back by this time and all this kind of thing. It really started to bug them. And, they then said, we had to do it. And I went, no, you didn't actually. You could have asked the tour operator for, a leave of absence. Be naughty. Be the one that says, no, I don't really want to do that activity. That's not an activity that is something that I'm really keen on. But, I'm happy for the rest of the group to go, and I'll meet you back at 5:00 or whenever the one is that you're happy to start again. So the key things for groups, and, certainly price is another issue, because the company is usually able to negotiate really good rates, and you're going to get, your flights and your accommodation and all wrapped up together with guides and transfers and things like that, you're usually going to get that at a pretty good price because they're buying it on volume and they're buying it on structure and reliability of facilitating those tours. And then you're going to be buying that group on the brand. What do you know about that brand for the kind of travelers that they are attracting to their tour company, to their experiences? Some companies cater to a younger audience. Some cater to a more mature audience. Some cater to different budgets, different lengths of stays, and different accommodation levels. You know, are you a 3-star traveler, a 4-star traveler, or a 5-star traveler? Do you travel alone? Or will you be traveling with someone so that you can share the accommodation and share the twin share? So there's all these kind of things that you will get from group travel. And I want you to think about that very carefully, in the sense that if, you know, on your pros and your cons columns, there's more pros because, you know, that's just where you're at in life. That's just how you want to do it. You know, you did a group tour to Morocco, or you did a group tour to Italy, or you're a Kentucky lover and you love those group tours and the activities and the joys and fun of meeting a whole group of people on the buses and things like that. You know, it's definitely the go. But if you struggle, as I said, with the busyness, the structure, the stringency around time slots, and the pace of it is just too stringent, that you're not going to get to kind of just muse a little bit, relax a little bit, then maybe the group tour is not for you. And while people say, yeah, but, you know, I want to buy it because, you know, I'm not going to be able to get that tour for that price. Well, that bit you don't know about until you try. And that's where the independent and the individual travel options come in, where you get to plan your own trip and devise the trip that you want, and you know, maybe pick some of those places that are in the group tours, maybe not all of them, but maybe spend longer periods of time in some places than others, maybe do different things, or maybe do nothing. Maybe do nothing. Plan in nothing. Lie by the pool. Walk the beach. Have a long coffee in a coffee shop. And just sit by and people watch. I think the private or the do-it-yourself traveler is probably the space I've had more to do, certainly in the last couple of years. As I said, prior to that, I was more working with companies and helping them design some of these group tours. But you know, I've found more joy with working with people to get what they want in the do-it-yourself space, in the individual traveler space. However, in saying that, it takes some considerations, and I want to put a bit of a caveat here in saying that, you know, if you're confident in doing things online, sure, you can do it all yourself. But you're going to take some risks in the sense of you're depending on the research quality of the networks that you're doing research on to get the right information. And if you feel you are able to do that, well, go for it. And, you know, the other option then is to use a private travel agent where they're going to organise a private tour. Now, when I say private tours, I mean that this tour is going to be just for you and your travelling companion or your family or whatever. You're not going to be on a public group tour. You're not going to be joining a group. There's going to be one person meeting you at the airport and taking you in a private car, and that's going to be a transfer. Not a bus, not a sign up that says, the brand and the brand group is to meet on pillar 10, and you're all going to go off together and you're going to follow the flag, which is what a group tour does. No, no, no. In a private situation, you're going to have a person, yes, will have your name on it, but you'll be in a private car. And, for some of us, that sounds like a bit luxurious. But in Vietnam, it's amazing you can get some really nice luxuries, but not have it break the bank. And you can't self-drive in Vietnam, so you're not going to see a whole heap of companies offering cars and car hire, because that's just not available to you in Vietnam. You can, however, hire a driver, and the driver will be driving a beautiful air-conditioned, very new car. But you're not going to get that advantage of joining a group of people immediately. You're going to have to make an effort at the places that you are visiting to meet other travelers, kind of as part of your travel. The advantage of having someone help you organize this and provide you insights is that if you relate to that person and you feel confident with that travel agent, you're going to be able to form a relationship with them. And, the important factor that this person has to be able to give you is confidence, that they know what they're talking about, that they have been there, touched that, or they know somebody that has. If they don't know, they're going to find out for you, because the care factor is where the differentiator is because this travel agent wants to give you a private tour and a private experience of Vietnam, but in a way that you're going to enjoy it at your own pace and to include the kinds of things that you want to do. Now, for me, I don't want to go to Saigon and then go out to the Coochie tunnels. When I'm there, it's too hot, and the thought of me going underground, touching snakes, or, experiencing any of that kind of fun stuff that other people think is fun is just not on my radar. I don't want to do that. But if that's included in the group tour, that's what the group does. So you're obliged to do it. You don't have to, as I mentioned, but you can reallocate your time to do something different. I might choose to go and find, a crazy cafe that I heard about, out in the suburbs. Or I might want to check out a place that teaches you how to make your own perfume, as in design your own perfume by different scents and make up a bottle to take home. That's just something I might want to do. Or I might want to go and get pampered, or I might want to go and try a Michelin restaurant. That's kind of some of the things that I want to do in Saigon. Or I might want to do a tuk-tuk tour, or I might want to go on the back of a Vespa and, check out all the street food with the guidance of a tour operator that runs around on Vespas. So I want the individuality. I want the personality that I have with my group, with my family, with whoever I'm traveling with, to be the determinator of what I experience. So for you, when you're thinking about your private tour, all of these things can get priced and put together in a package, which is kind of all wrapped up. So it's your transfers, your airfares, your accommodation, and that would be spoken about with you, tailored to the kind of hotel and where you want that hotel to be. Do you care whether or not it's far away from, anything, or would you like it in walking distance to the old town, or be in District 1, or, have certain views, or do you want it to include some wellness aspects to it? All of these things can get discussed and plugged in and form the part of your travel experience that you want to have as an individual. It can still, as I said, get wrapped up into a package. So it's a price right at, the end, which is all inclusive, a bit like your group tour. But this one is tailored to you. This is one where you have entrusted your experience to the travel agent that is advising you, or you've trusted yourself and your own instincts to know, no, this is the way I want to do it. Somebody's told me about this place. They said it's good. You're going on good airlines, so you're trusting those airline networks and you can book that online. And you feel confident that in the stay that you've decided on, the dates that you've chosen, that you've got yourself covered as an individual traveller and travelling on your own or in your own party. So the reason I wanted to talk about these two is because of the outcomes from either of them. And where I've found the most joy will surprise you, I think, in the sense that while the group tours do offer, that headache-free, stress-free, don't have to think, budget-minded traveller, there's not the real levels of joy that I hear about versus the person who has been an individual traveller and travelled in their own steam under the guise of a private travel agent, or they've booked everything themselves. And I think there's a lot of logic to why the individual traveller gets more out of Vietnam in specified time slots like the 12 days or the 14 days, is because they've really thought about the kind of holiday they want to have and been able to match that to the trip design. If you are a person who, sure, you want to experience a lot, but you've recognized that, it's going to be December as the only time you can go. And while you love hiking and you love all that, it's going to be too cold to do that in northern Vietnam. So for this trip, you're going to design it more in the south, and you're going to do a different kind of things and maybe have an island hop to Phu Quoc in that, because you recognize and you've got information to hand that's reliable to say, it's just not going to be ideal for you to have that hiking experience and get the best out of the north on that trip. However, you might prefer to do another trip at another time of the year when it's going to be perfect to experiencing that. So you might, come back in September the following year or in a couple of years' time. And you can still tailor and make it to what you want to experience. I hope that in this episode I've been able to give you some thoughts to help you design your trip. I hope I've given you some thoughts about how you want to spend your time according to your own preferences, your own timing, your own pace, and your own personality. Don't knock your own personality out of the park as far as designing your own holiday. It is a holiday. It's the time you get off in a year to go away. So, even if it's, Kerry, can you find us a place where we can attend Mass on a Sunday? We're going to be away 2 Sundays. Can you find us a good place and the Mass times? Yes, I can. Yes, we can do that. Kerry, we're traveling with 3 children, and, these are teenage girls. They're all into shopping. They're all into, we went to Southeast Asia a couple of years ago. They're pagodaed out. They want to hear about this vibrant city and this vibrant country. And can you show us some of the great, real trendy places for my teenage daughters to go in Saigon? Yeah, we can do that. I think, trip planning is one of those things that people kind of gloss over as not having much value. But when you're traveling with people, or, you're trying to sell internally to, your wife or your family members or your kids or whatever, that, yes, we're going to go to Vietnam, we're going to have a great time. If you can get to plan it the way you want it to be, you've got a much better chance of having a better outcome. People go back and forth to lots of countries, and I can name Spain, Italy, Thailand, because they've been able to generally in the past experience the country the way they wanted to. They were able to go to the country more as individuals, less as tours. I mean, if the tour into Vietnam is a small group tour and it's around a specific concept, I know some great people that do offer very specialized tours. One group in particular that offers, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes, around food and textiles. Now, that might be your thing. I know another group that does them as a writer, so you can go and get writing skills. And so it might be that time of life where you want to get a bit creative and you want to do it in an environment that inspires creativity. This might be the kind of tour, but it's because of your personality and because of your likes, desires, and the things that you want to experience, and you're matching that to Vietnam. Don't try and, I think, make Vietnam match you. You match yourself to Vietnam. You find the kind of experience. And if you have to come back a couple of times, well, wahoo, do it. I would rather you come back a couple of times to experience different levels of Vietnam rather than try and smash it down and tick that bucket list and go, yeah, we saw Vietnam, got it over and done with. 12 days we were done. I don't know whether or not you would have got the full grasp of Vietnam according to its full scope on offering to you if you had done that. Sure, you would have got the glimpses and you would have still seen the beautiful Ha Long Bay and you would have got to have egg coffee in Hanoi. But there's so much to Vietnam. It to me, unless you've got extensive time in that first visit, it's a lot to experience in one visit, and especially in limited time. Now, if you are wanting to get some more advice around different options or you've got some questions to ask, please reach out. You know where to go. WhatAboutVietnam.com is the website where you might even be listening from because it is free, advert free. You can obviously find this on all your pod channels. But if you want to reach out, just reach out to me at WhatAboutVietnam@gmail.com. I'm happy to answer any questions. And, of course, I'm happy to do the trip planning for you, all inclusive and tailored to you. Happy traveling, folks, and I'll see you in Vietnam.
Thank you for listening. Check out the episode notes for more information.
What about Vietnam?
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review, and stay tuned for more fun adventures in Vietnam.
What about Vietnam?